Hey guys, so I have here the IKEA shelf KALLAX, and in this video I want to explain to you how to set this up real easily. I found that the best way to start out is by placing the box right side up on the floor like I have here, and I'm just opening it up like this. You will find this plastic bag with all the small items on one of the sides, and the first thing that I do is to check that I really have all the parts. And in addition, the shelf also comes with a small wrench that we still have to assemble. So you see you have here the metal piece and then this little plastic grip handle, and on the handle there's two numbers like a 4 and a 5, and you push this piece in where you see the 4. Now the very first board on the pile is going to be the top or the bottom board, and you can identify it by looking for these 4 holes. Only the top and the bottom boards have these kind of holes. Okay, so then the next board on the pile, that is going to be one of the sides. And that is also really easy to identify because on the short ends here, you'll see here these 2 holes on both ends of the board. And then one side here has a whole bunch of smaller holes on it too. So the first step now is to connect this top board and the side board with each other. So we're going to put them on a right angle like this here on the side. And at this point we need 2 of those large screws in order to connect those 2 pieces together. So you can start out by twisting the screw in there by hand, but it does get too tight really quickly, and at that point you want to switch to using the wrench. And when you do that, you really have to make sure that by the time you're connecting the 2 pieces together, they are already flush with each other. So what you see here is actually wrong. So there's a tiny gap in between there. So what you really want to do is, as soon as the screw goes into both pieces, there has to be no gap. Otherwise you won't really get rid of that gap later on. And once the screw is almost in, then make sure you don't over tighten it. So as soon as you hear the wood just crackling a little bit, you really want to stop. And the best way to know when to stop is when the screw here is flush with the surface of the piece of wood. So of course we repeat this step with the second screw as well here on the bottom, and also here make sure that the 2 pieces of wood are flush with each other, and once you're done, double check here that there is no gap in between. For the next step we're going to use 2 wooden dowels and then one of those shorter wood pieces that we find in the package. So you put the piece of wood on the side, and you're going to find 4 holes in there, and we're going to just put 2 dowels in the most outward holes. So the inward holes we're going to leave empty, and we put those dowels here on the outside holes, and then we're going to use a hammer and just pound them in just a little bit. They don't really go very far, so don't be surprised if you can't really get them in really deep, but just repeat that step here with both sides. And then we can start to install this piece. So we are now going to connect this with the bottom piece. So you see in the center of that you have a couple of holes there, and we're going to align the 2 dowels with the bottom part. And then we are going to use the hammer again to pound in the dowels into the bottom part, but you don't want to just pound right onto the wood piece itself. So you want to put something in between so that you don't damage the wood with the hammer. Then next it is time to install the center board, and this is the one that has these 4 holes on the side here. See, just like the 2 short boards that we have. And here we're going to put in 4 dowels. So all 4 holes that you see here are going to be filled with the dowels. We'll pound them in again. So these dowels actually go in a little bit further than the first one. And now we line this up here with the side piece. So the dowels are going to go into the side piece. You should see there's 4 holes in there. So line this like that. And then here also I'm not going to pound right on the wood. I'm using here some scrap wood to help with the protection of the shelf itself. And either you can try to just hammer it in like that if somebody is holding the side piece for you, or alternatively you can also just turn the shelf on its side. See, like this, I'm just rotating it here 90 degrees, and then you can do the same thing, just pounding down on it. And once we're done with this step, we have to check on the bottom again that there is no gap here in between the two boards. And the next step is to connect the center board with the short piece underneath it. In order to do that, I'm going to rotate the shelf upright again. So you see those 4 holes in the middle here of the big board, and we are supposed to drive a couple of dowels through there right into this short wood piece. So in order to do that, I'm going to align this board with the holes, and then we're going to drive 2 dowels in here, and we're going to do that again with the most outside holes. And here I'm using my hammer to get those in. And you see these dowels go in pretty deep, so there's not going to be much left that you can see here of the dowels. And now we're going to install the second side piece, and in order to do that, I have first rotated the whole shelf on its side again, so that we should now see 4 holes from the center board. And in here we're going to add 4 additional dowels, so every hole gets a dowel, and we're going to hammer those in as deep as they go. And then now we are going to take the second side piece, so this should be the last side piece that we have available, and we're going to attach that here. So we're going to line up the holes from the side piece with those 4 dowels, and I'm going to use here some shim pieces here so that I can use the hammer to slowly and carefully hammer that in. And I'm also going to switch between both sides so that the dowels go in nice and evenly into the sideboard. So again here you should check that there is no more gap here in between the 2 pieces here that we've just connected with the dowels together. And then next we're going to connect the bottom piece with the side piece, and we're going to use 2 screws for this again, just like we did on the opposite side. And here, as a reminder, when you put the screw in, make sure that there is already no gap between the 2 wooden pieces, and don't put in the screw too far. Make sure you stop as soon as the head of the screw is flush with the wood. So then I'm going to rotate the shelf upright again, and then we should have one of those shorter wood pieces left. So one like this here, and we already have the wooden dowels in this board, so now all we have to do is put the board right over there. Then we again add 2 more wooden dowels, and we add those here to the outside holes, so not all 4 holes get a wooden dowel, and we use the hammer to hammer those in as far as they go. Remember, those wooden dowels here, they don't go very far into these pieces of wood. And now at this point we should only have 1 more board left here, and that's the top board, the one with those 4 holes on the top. And this just goes straight right on here. So we line this up here with the wooden dowels that we just put in. And just like we did on the opposite side, we're going to carefully hammer those in here until there is no more gap visible. And now we are almost done here. Now we should have 4 more of those long screws, and we're going to screw those in here from the top. Make sure that there is no gap when you put the screws in. So repeat this 4 times really carefully, and make sure when you hear some wood cracking, then definitely stop, otherwise you may damage the wood or the threads here. And then the last step is to add the little padding pieces here. Those are to protect the floor. So if you're ever considering to disassemble this shelf again, then maybe put them next to the screw. But since I'm not planning on ever taking this apart again, I'm just going to put those cushions here right on top of the screw. Okay, so then I just have to rotate the shelf around so that it is sitting on the floor protectors, and then I'm going to just place it wherever I want it to have. Now you may notice that you still have a couple of components left that we still haven't used, and those are a couple of brackets that we can use to attach the shelf to the wall. So in case you have a need to secure your shelf on the wall, then you can use these to attach them with it. So you may want to do this in case you have little children that try to climb up those shelves, or even if you're in an earthquake prone area. So in my case, I don't really need to do this here, so I'm just going to demonstrate this as an example. So at first you would install this L bracket on the shelf, and there are pre-drilled holes for that in the back area of the shelf. And then through this big hole you're supposed to put a bigger screw that you screw into the wall. So this screw is not part of the shelf, so you have to come up with that by yourself. And then once you've done that, then you put this other little metal piece and slide that over this bigger screw. Okay, so this was already it here, the setup of the IKEA KALLAX shelf. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any more questions or comments, then please leave a message below.